Welcome, everyone. We have an incredible show planned for you today. It has become our tradition to have our year end wrap up in our forecast and what we're hoping for the new year with Rosanna Lamanna, partner at Fuller Landau, and Marlene Doss, partner at Aeon Law. So let's get started.
Empowering women on a global scale. Welcome to Powerful Women Today with Carolina Billings. Powerful Women Today is on a mission of inclusion, rewriting his story to include her story, and empowering, raising, and amplifying women's voices with professional speaking, publishing, original podcasting, and web TV. And now here's your host, the founder of Powerful Women Today, Carolina Billings.
Hello, ladies. What an incredible 2022. I cannot wait to hear your perspective and just to get caught up on where we're at the end of the year. So, Rosanna, if you can get us started.
Sure. Yeah, I can't believe we're already in December and the holidays are around the corner. I don't know where this year's gone. I'm going to say it's been a roller coaster ride of a year. I think it's one of those, I'm going to say transitional years, I'll call it. We were kind of coming out of fully remote to kind of moving towards hybrid and sort of trying to figure out our new groove, right? I think in the past couple of years, we got used to some new routines and, we were just accustomed to having virtual meetings all the time, back to back kind of thing. And now, with things opening up, it's nice to actually be able to see some people in person and start, rekindling relations and actually being out there with, our contacts, with our clients, with our colleagues. So it's kind of nice to see, but I also think there's a little bit more of, figuring out what our schedules look like, how we work differently, how we connect with people differently. And everybody's sort of trying to figure out, I found over the last few months, trying to just figure it all out with things sort of changing again and navigating the new hybrid world.
I heard that a lot. Like everybody was happy to get back to in person. I think there was a little bit of nostalgia to it. It's like, oh, like I'm cherishing this thing. But then after a while, it's like, oh, but I also appreciate the efficiency of just virtual, right? Like when it comes to commute and time management and to be able to do it all. So it's yes, I think rebuilding and recalibrating are two words for 2022 for sure. Marlene, at your end, what happened in 2022?
Oh, there's always so much that happens. No, it's been a good year. It's been a good year. We've stabilized, I would say, in our office, with our staff and stuff. And we are doing the hybrid model, not for everybody, but whoever needs to. So that's nice. So COVID kind of made sure that we were able to do that, which is great. But we're definitely happy. We've been in the office for some time now and seeing clients more regularly in the office, at least for the wills and estates pieces. The real estate is still, for the most part, done virtually. And I think that is, like you're saying, it's working well for a lot of people. But we're here and we're ready to meet with people whenever they prefer the in-person. And it's nice to get back to the in-person and have the consultations and answer questions, not just on the phone or over Zoom and stuff like that.
It's definitely a different type of conversation. It could still be successful, but it's a complete different way of communicating. It works, it works for some. It doesn't, it's good and bad to everything, right? But yes. What I do find, in the last year that Powerful Women Today happens to be virtual 100%. And that's been the case for us even pre-COVID. So for us, it was a little bit of welcome to my world. All of a sudden, everybody's like on the same track. But the thing that I did realize out of being able to develop a hybrid model is that it can be done, where before there were circumstances, there were organizations and even, leadership that never thought it would be possible. And some people still do not see it as a viable means. But what I encountered from it was there was a freedom that all of a sudden people that were not participating as much before
Mhm.
because all the three of us, and many people happen to be in major city centers where, if you need a grocery store, Walmart, anything you need is within, within a radius, or a reasonable driving radius. But that's not the case for everyone. In bringing a hybrid model, or being more open to a virtual business model, has enabled people to move to more affordable markets. It has enabled people that are outside, at GTA, to all of a sudden consider jobs, right? Consider jobs that before maybe they're in an area that there's not a lot of jobs.
Mhm.
And now that's opened up. And also, there is the issue of inclusion. Sometimes travel, especially at the price of gas, was not necessarily affordable for a lot of people. So, in that in itself, and I'm going on a little bit of a bunny trail here as I'm speaking. I'm realizing, well, this is leading to that, this is leading to that, because that also created a division within the workforce. Because some jobs you are able to do the hybrid, while other ones you can't, right? And how do you bring about equanimity to that? So let's speak about what we got right out of the reimmersion into this hybrid world, and what do we wish we could still focus on and improve for the new year. So Rosanna, you're going first at everything today.
Okay. Fair enough. I'll say I think we've learned a lot over the last few years in terms of, and I think to your point, you're right. There's some pros and cons to everything. I do think obviously the reach and scale of people, especially working with, companies both locally, nationally, internationally, just the virtual platform has really helped, to connect and have conversations with people. The fact that these platforms are more readily available than they ever have been, and that people are actually using them and know how to use them as well, right? Not everybody had access necessarily to some of these platforms. So I think that's been a good thing to just connect us more around the globe as well, and to have more meaningful conversations with people that maybe we wouldn't even connect with at all. So it's kind of nice to be able to talk to people maybe we wouldn't have. And then I think from, an in-person perspective, there's lots that can be learned virtually, lots of great connections, but I find there's always a time and place for everything.
Mhm.
And sometimes there's limitations to the virtual world. Like when it comes to, for example, companies that have had to onboard new people or training, very challenging to do that online. There's aspects of it that, people can sit in front of their computer and, read manuals or whatever the case may be. But there's aspects of the job that, it's the in-person learning, the experience, working alongside others, kind of somebody, role modeling what it looks like to kind of do certain things. You kind of miss out on that. So I think that there's definitely some benefits from the in-person and some of the learnings that come with that, or even some of the connections with, clients. And, it's great to have conversations online, but it always has to be scheduled. And and it seems to be a bit more transactional at times rather than, the in-person where you've got a little bit, you're not committed to, your 30-minute sort of time slot all the time, and you see the 5 minutes left to talk,
And six clients
like
are waiting in the waiting room.
Exactly, right? So you don't have all of those sort of distractions in the conversation sometimes, and the conversation goes where it may, and you start talking about what's really important to them, right? And understanding how you may be able to help them maybe at a different level than you would have otherwise if that conversation didn't extend the extra 5 minutes per se. So so I think there's lots to be said about I think there's a time and place for virtual as well as in person. So I think both are equally
Yeah.
important and should be here to stay, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think you brought a very valid point that if you already were part of a team before COVID, right, before the pandemic, and you knew the culture and you kind of knew each other, you've met these people, right, and you worked, and then you went virtual, and then you're now hybrid and whatever, those connections were already established. So for someone new coming in, right, I think that would definitely, for some, right, other people just adapt, and they just do what they need to do. but for some, I can, especially the people that are a little bit more social, more visual, tactile kind of people, that I totally see it more difficult getting, I don't want to say buy into, because it sounds a bit manipulative, but to get to really understand the culture
Mhm.
and to really feel that sense of belonging, right? When you're all remote, experiencing different weather, different, different time zones, different everything. So I think it has expanded our humanity in a big way, right? To show what is possible, but let's not forget our humanity in the process as well. So what about at your end, Marlene?
What have we done right, and what can
What
we
do you think
improve?
we got right out of all of these?
Um, so, I mean, we've been doing the virtual thing for some time now. I feel like COVID has been around forever. Um, so we've been doing the virtual thing for a long time. It's been working well with our clients and stuff. Our team definitely prefers to be in the office overall, exactly for those reasons. The team building and the being able to work together. I mean, they're used to working from home sometimes now, but we do at least once a week meet with our team in person,
Yeah.
um, as much as possible. Yes, not everybody is in the same office location, but as much as possible we try to bring everybody into the same house and have a meeting together, and touch base and see where there's some issues that we need to correct, or where there's things that can be improved, but also be able to give praise where praise is the word, praise is due. We're definitely having some software issues with some of the platforms that we're using, and most of those have been worked out, but there's a couple that still need a little improvement and that we're working with the companies on. So I would say that would be one thing that I'm hoping by next year will be a complete non-issue, because it does impact when you're onboarding new staff or new clients and stuff like that. But what I think what we've been doing well is just preparing the matters for our clients and holding those meetings, and because they're still over Zoom and stuff, they still do get that interaction with you. It's not the in person, but I think a lot of people are happy with that. I would say that my fear is that too many people are becoming shut-ins because of this
Oh, yeah, it is.
because of this
In that we're
pandemic. But
great, assuming, and we're blessed, individuals, all of us, and in as much that our homes are happy, and there are sanctuaries, and but that's not the case for everyone. So all of the sudden, to find yourself not having that psychological distancing, or not having that balance of being able to walk away from maybe your children, or not that you don't love your children, but you know what, I remember when my son was little and I was in that busy, because when your kids are your children are in that age, it's just such a busy time of your life, right? That I remember I used to be so grateful when Sunday night and Monday morning came, because I got to go to work. But then I was grateful on Friday, because then I got to leave work and go to my family, right? And just having that balance, and when you're home, you're more likely to try to multitask, right? Especially for women, you're now trying to be there for your kids, you're trying to keep the house, you're home, you're like, oh, I got 10 minutes, let's put a load of laundry, like, it just seems that we became more efficient working remotely, virtually, but that came at a cost. And you see a lot the word burnout or overwhelm, or um, mental health, like you see that a lot more now, I think, than before. And a lot of it has to do with reestablishing a balance, right? Reestablishing, what does that mean? You know what I mean? Just because I'm home all day doesn't mean that all of a sudden I have to do all the chores, for the household, right? And I have to tell you, in my home, is my son and I, and he works downtown, so it's like a long commute there and back. And I feel guilty. Like, I feel guilty that he has to get up that early to start his day. So I make sure that I get up earlier so that he knows. It's like my way of supporting him, right? It's like, you know what, I'm not just going to roll out of bed, like 8:45 to start 9, right? Like, or whatever. And I know it's just it's all in my mind. I realize that, and he's probably oblivious to it. But when there's two different dynamics or two different work, speeds at home, um, I find it can create maybe sometimes a little bit of resentment, right? Or not understanding what does it mean to still commute or to still work from home. Is any of these resonating with you guys, or am I just a product of my own mental, cyclones?
No, I know exactly what you're talking about. I think, in some ways, although we're working from home, I feel like our days got longer and just more things sort of getting pushed in because, that hour and a half commute. Well, now you've just gained an hour and a half, so you feel like you need to fill it with something rather than taking that time and just kind of unwinding, right? Like I still remember and I still do. I kind of enjoy going to the office sometimes. I do have about an hour and a half commute. And I find I just love that time to like have my coffee in the car, think
Listen to
about
an
what
ebook.
like some
Yeah.
time to, focus and think about, either something I really want to do, something I should be doing, or something I can do to help someone else, rather than, when you're at home, you're at home, you're constantly on. Like it's that virtual meeting back to back to back to back without even 10 minutes to breathe between meetings sometimes, that it's just nice to kind of, I'm going to call it a bit of a mental break, that
Mhm.
little just time to yourself to sort of think about things and reflect and it just clears your mind a little bit. And I'm going to say I kind of missed sometimes that like alone time in my car, to just do just that.
turn
Because
your
at home,
commute into you can turn your commute into a contemplative practice. You can actually
I
meditate,
know.
like not quite zen out completely because you're driving, but you can certainly,
Yeah.
exercise gratitude or reflect on what's transpired, or anything like that, or set up intentions and visualization and things like that. So, and I did read somewhere that if you're working 100% from home now, reclaim your commute, like even if it is to drive to buy coffee, right? Like reclaim or walk, like do your walking before work starts, right? Like, so still create that buffer that's kind of like getting you ready. So Marlene, what about you?
Oh, well, my husband works from home, so he's doing the thing. I mean, we have younger kids, so we're both getting up in the morning to get them ready and get them out of the house, regardless of whether he's working from home or not. So,
Bless your hearts,
um,
both of you. I know you're great moms, so I know you're going the distance
well,
with it.
no, so yeah, so we have our morning routine, like whether we're working from home or I'm coming into the office. So, we're both up pretty early, and I get up at 5 o'clock anyways most days. Um,
Oh yes.
to start the day, which is great. But I do remind myself on the commutes, the days that I am coming into the office, which is almost every day now. And sometimes there is quite a bit of traffic, and you're like, oh, I miss I miss COVID traffic, is what I say to myself. But actually, I've turned my car into a classroom. I'm usually watching or listening to something that I can grow from or expand from or learn from, whatever it is, just to make the car ride fruitful. It's a long ride. It's a long commute. And, I do think that we have to be careful of that attitude of it's a waste of time, There's
It
no
is
such
whatever you
thing.
make
It's
it.
just time. It's just time, right? So your son getting up early to go downtown, well, that's good. You know what? It's a reminder. Not everything has to be on a silver spoon as far as
Productivity,
I'm
yeah,
concerned.
output,
You know,
output. You know,
output and delivered to you. So yes, we have to put in a little work. We got to earn some things. Yes, you got to get to the job that's going to give you your paycheck. That's okay. When did that become a bad thing, right?
and you too, and we are. I was mentioning to Rosanna during our green room warm up that we're now doing our LinkedIn, our podcast live. So we do two shows. We do the live streaming video during the day, and then there's certain topics that we find are best handled in the evening, right? So that, yeah, LinkedIn audio is proved a phenomenal. If you haven't tried it already, this is a freebie endorsement of LinkedIn audio. It is absolutely fabulous. And to hear you guys, because you're both, extremely successful. You are. And And you are that successful because you work extremely hard at it. And you have my deepest respect. You're both, you know, extremely respected professionals, and you're at the top of your profession, and I really respect that, and is, you know, my joy to work with women of your caliber. But I love to hear your human stories, that you got little ones, that you still got to get them out, that, you know, you do still have a partner, like you still have to balance. And, you know, it's something that we we should not forget. You know what I mean? That A, it can be done, and B, that, you know, is there's such a satisfaction and a reward to be such a great role model, especially to, you know, to your little ones, to show that, you know, responsibility, and you can still achieve, and you can still show up for what matters, right? So for the new year, so now we're entering 2023, is the second year post the main, you know, core of the pandemic. What do you see, what's your wish, what's the trends that you see coming up? We'll start with Marlene this time. We'll give Rosanna a little break. Marlene, what do you see as the trend, as something to watch out for?
From the legal aspect, you mean?
From anything that you feel we ought to watch out for.
So what I keep hearing is a lot of fear about the potential recession that's coming. This is
Okay.
what I keep hearing about from people from different aspects. And I think that can be a very dangerous place to stay in,
Mhm.
you know, because I believe that even if it happens, it can bring great opportunities. It can have, you know, great potential for growth for you, or, you know, whether it's business wise or investment wise, or, you know, getting into that real estate market that people have been struggling to get into. I mean, I'm hoping it won't happen the way that they're expecting, but I just I think it's really important to keep our attitudes in check,
Mhm.
and, you know, remain positive, and not to live, and I keep hearing this, not to live from the outside in, right? Everything that we have and that we need is already within us, and it's just a matter of improving that, honing it in, doing whatever it is that you need to do, and figuring out what it is that you want from the coming year, and not losing your focus because of whatever is going on around us. There's always negativity, there's always going to be something, and the news, unfortunately, um, chooses to relay that more than the good things that are happening around us. You know, so we're constantly inundated with that messaging, whether it's something related to a sickness or an illness or
Oh my God, there's always something.
money.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's almost, if it weren't so sad, it would be funny. You know,
right.
it's like, what's next, right? It's like, it feels like we're in some kind of video game, that there's always a challenge coming at us that you gotta work
But I
through.
don't think that that's anything new. I think that's the thing, you know. And if it was so commonplace, then it wouldn't be news, right?
That's true.
It's
That's
because it's not such a common occurrence that it's putting it out there. But the world has always been, you know, there's always been one country or the other that's in turmoil and that is struggling or is at war or has
we just
civil
have a little bit more
uprisings or
visibility because of technology now, right? But you're right, that has always been the case, right?
Mhm.
And we ought to take responsibility for the quality and the quantity of outside information that we consume, and that our families consume, because, as you know, as moms, we always have, you know, a lot of say, or we ought to have a lot of say as to what our children are doing, right? And manage their understanding of the world, or try to help. And Rosanna, what are your thoughts on what we ought to watch out for?
I think there's lots to watch out for. I'm going to talk a little bit about sort of the business world, and then I'm going to say personal world, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Being, I'm going to say, an accountant in public practice, taxes are always on people's minds right now. With the year end coming and some of the tax planning tips, I like to just encourage and challenge everyone to think about that sooner this year than later. I always find, it's usually on April 29th or the day before people's personal taxes come due that people start, I say that, I just trying to, as a metaphorically, it's always last minute kind of thing. And I challenge everybody to think about your tax planning strategies for this year. Is there anything you could do differently? Is there anything that perhaps you didn't consider? There's been a lot of, opportunities within the last year in terms of some of the budgets and that have come out, and some of the opportunities. I'll throw one out there that people sometimes forget, but there's a staycation credit. So with the holidays around the corner, if people are looking to, maybe book something, a hotel, for example, in Ontario, keep that receipt. You might be able to get 20% back
Oh, wow.
on your tax return. So yeah, and that's due. That's for the year of 2022. So even if you've done that already in the summer, keep that receipt. You might be able to claim it. So think ahead, talk to people. Reach out to your advisors, have those conversations before the end of the year. For those in the corporate world, is there anything that you should be doing before December 31st if you have a December 31st year end to help you plan for that? So I'm going to say be a little bit more intentional, mindful, thoughtful before the year end. I know we're cutting it close because we're kind of almost there. Nonetheless, it's never too late, and something to think about, right? So so I encourage everyone to do that. And then I think on a personal level, to your point with burnout, mental health, it's been such a so much talk about it, and I honestly believe it's a real thing. I do think there are people that are struggling out there. Be kind. You don't know what everybody's bearing inside or keeping within themselves. So try not to judge people when you feel like someone's not producing or not working, or not putting their all at work. There might be something else in there, deep inside that they're struggling with or dealing with, or aging parents or young kids, whatever it is. Not everybody's as open about sharing and talking about these things. So just be kind to people and try and really try and help people through, whatever it is that they're dealing with. Right. And sometimes it's just, recognizing when it's time to maybe take someone out for a coffee and just let them get out and enjoy, not talk about anything other than, maybe even the weather or what, just sometimes people just need a break out, right? So those are my sort of I say intentions for the new year. And
brilliant. I think so.
So I was just going to say, can I add to Rosanna's? Because as she was talking, I was like, oh yes, I hope people do a lot more planning in 2023. One of the unfortunate things that we have seen in 2022 is a lot of people being hit with unforeseen circumstances. And, there's so many instances that it could have been made better. You can't avoid everything, but it could have been made better, and you could have been better prepared, So, I mean, in our areas of practice, the primary ones, which are, we have a lot of corporate and wills in the States and real estate, and if you're worried about the interest rates coming up and what's going to happen with your house, get ahead of it. Start the conversations with your mortgage broker, with your realtor, with whatever it is. Don't get stuck, and
don't wait until your mortgage is up to realize,
there's refinancing. There's other, there's things that are available that could help you. So if you're stressing, reach out to us or reach out to the other professionals and make sure you get a plan in place, and we've seen a lot of people that were hit with unexpected illnesses and unexpected deaths in their families. And the common denominator is that when the wills are in place and when the powers of attorneys are in place, it's just much easier for everybody, So I'm just hoping that people really get ahead and get those plans in place that they have been thinking about for some time.
Yeah, and you know what? And that's my commitment to the two of you, especially because you're in that area that is it may at times not feel sexy, but you know what? Is when you have your house in order, it's peace.
Yes.
Is inner peace. And so for the coming year, we have our magazine coming up, which of course Rosanna and Marlene are going to be big contributors to it. We got our podcast, broadcast, books, events. My commitment is to make sure that we disseminate all of the information that we can, breaking down barriers to entry. Inform yourself. That's the number one. Invest in finding out, in listening to something, instead of watching, mindless things or listening to all those horrible news. Spend the time listening to something that is presented to you with a positive outlook, but still information that you need to know. And that's one of the secrets to Powerful Women Today and all of our mentor experts, that we do get to the core of it. We are in the science and serious and financial disciplines, but it's never in a doom and gloom. It's never meant to scare. It's meant to empower. And we empower by being informed. We empower by understanding. So I say for 2023, my wish is for all of us to look within, set up your boundaries, set your house in order. And, if there's an intention, I don't set up year-end resolutions. It's more of a theme. And so my theme for 2023 is internal economy. Fortunes are made during adversity. Bankrupts occur during, glory days, right? They're all individual stories, and you get to be the author of your story. So focus on what you can control. Internal economy. That is, set up your goals, set them high, aim high, stay focused, nose to the grind, right? And where others are playing, you're working. And when others are lamenting, you're positive and you're planning. And that's what we're here for. You're here to be supported. You're here to be championed. And you deserve peace and happiness and fulfillment. And hopefully we're here to see it every step of the way. So thank you, everybody. We wish you an absolute happy new year. I am grateful for my business sisters. And I'm telling you, connect with these two ladies, because they will point you they certainly point me in the right direction. So I know they will point you in the right direction. So happy new year, everyone. Enjoy and be blessed. And let's start the next year with a positive mindset. Take care. Bye, everyone.
Happy holidays.
Empowering women on a global scale. This has been Powerful Women Today with Carolina Billings. To learn more about how you can join and transform your life and the lives of women everywhere with professional speaking, publishing, podcasting, and web TV, visit powerfulwomentoday.com. Remember to subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, YouTube, or wherever you like to listen and watch your podcasts.